Hello guys. In system administration world, the easiest way to manage any part is to understand it first. Otherwise, trial and error most of the time is going to give you a negative result. So that's why we need first to understand the database, like we try to become a database system admin. Then that is going to help us to be able to integrate our knowledge of both the Windows Server network itself with the database, which is being hosted by that network, to have a reliable environment which I can depend on it. Now, before we start, we need to keep in mind a few things. First, in database, we have too many concepts because it is a very big field. We'll try not to just explain those concepts in theory, but we'll try to support that with labs immediately when we can. Unless if the concept is very big, like we might talk about enterprise database approach, then in that case, at least we understand what is the concept and what is the future expectation of that concept. We need to understand we have different types of databases. Many languages can be used to create, manage, and query these databases. We need to understand what is the relational database, what is the database management system, and finally, what is the transact SQL to access and manipulate data. So what is the objective of this module? In this module, we'll try to describe the characteristics of relational database, describe other database types and storage methods, describe process of data analysis, and finally describe the languages which we can use in SQL Server. So in this lesson, we need to understand a relational database. First, before that, we need to understand what is the database itself. Then we need to learn about the fundamentals of relational database, then tables in relational database. Here we need to talk a bit about normalization too, but in the next lesson we'll talk in more details about it. Then we will see in demonstration how to explore relational database, and then after that we need to start with the normalization. Now, what is the database? Database is organized store of data for faster retrieval of data. Now, you can consider Excel sheet as a sample of database. You have a set of tools. With these tools, you can order your settings or your data, depends on specific field. Maybe you prepare it according to the name or order it according to that. And in addition, you can run Visual Basic script to create the query and retrieve back certain data. Like all data relating to Peter, you can retrieve it simply by the deployment of Visual Basic script. But of course, once we talk about a database like SQL, it is more complicated and the infrastructure inside is different from what we have here in Excel. This is just a flat table, two-dimensional. With SQL, it is more complicated. But simply, you can consider Excel sheet as a simple form of database. Databases store data in a way that minimizes redundancy to achieve more efficient data storage and reduced data inconsistency. Let us jump back to the Excel sheet. Take a look to this table. Now let us focus on this part. In this part, I will assume I have a database for sales, and in sales I need to provide customer first name, customer last name, customer phone, address, then staff name, and order type and the date. Of course, usually you have more fields, more columns to be added, but this is just a simple database. Now, the problem which I have it in this order, if you take a look, everything is repeated except the order type. Now, because of the order type, I have to repeat the date, staff name, customer address, customer phone, and all other informations. This is what we call redundancy. And for such design, I have now to use 28 cells. Of course, cell might be integer, like if I use a custom phone. It might be string, like when I have here staff name. And we might use a different type also of cells, like even Boolean, true or false. Now, the problem with such design is redundancy. Here we have only 4 records, and as you see with all these records, everything is being repeated. What if I have a company with hundreds of thousands of records or bank system? That's why I need to eliminate the redundancy. First, to use my space in a better way, because I'm not going to use space just to save the redundant data. And then when you have a smaller size, your query can perform faster to retrieve data. And that's why we need normalization. We will discuss about it just in a few minutes. Query language provides a way to access the data in a database. We have the normal SQL query language, structured query language. We have XQuery, we have MDX, multidimensional expression, and we have TSXL, transact structured query language. And in addition, definitely we can use an advanced languages like C# and Visual Studio in general, all languages included. Most of them can be used to manage the database. And the database management system, DBMS, is a software which we can use it to create and manage databases. Here we have the SQL, you have Oracle, you have Mongo, and some others. Now let us talk about the relational database. In any database, when we'll try to design it, it contains in the beginning just one big table, and in that table you have everything. Now we have the columns and rows. Columns represent the main element or entities like first name, last name, street address, and rows for data. Now with relational database, definitely you will need to add a new column, and you might need to add even more than one. And this column, we called it a key. And this key usually, like here as we see, customer ID, that key is unique. It cannot be repeated. So in this table, we have now a customer ID per customer. And as you see, the customer ID is unique. And you will use this key. Let us take a look to the next slide. You will use this key now to split that big table. And this process, we called it normalization. And then you start to link the keys between all these tables. Now the collection of all these tables, this is what we call it relational database. Now you might ask again, what is the benefit of that? First, to get rid of redundancy. We don't need to have repeated data. And the second objective is to have a faster access to a database by using a query. Let us take a look back to our Excel sheet. Now, if you take a look here, if I want now to get rid of the redundant data of our customer, then simply now I can split our main database into two smaller databases. Here, keep in your mind, the data in this main table requires about 28 cells. While if I split it, let us see what is the total number of cells to represent the same data we have it in the main table. Now, how can I split it? If I take a look to this table, the information relating to customer, I can now create a new table. It is just for a customer. And this is where my key is going to be added. And as we had explained shortly, we are not going to repeat that key. So here I have key number 1 for Peter, key maybe number 2 for Sarah, 3 for Ellen, and so on. And for staff ID, again, I need to have a new table. And in that table, again, I will use a key, and that key is unique. So for Ellen, Dan, who is one of our staff members, we have staff ID, which is 1. Then we have 2, 3, and so on. And now when we come to the order, instead of keep repeat all the information of customer and all the information relating to the staff, I can just put now the customer ID, because if you remember here in the main table, Peter John is the one who want to buy the CPU i9. So I'll put customer ID, which is number 1. Who's going to serve the request is Ellen, and Ellen's staff ID again is 1. Then I can put the information of order type, which is CPU i9 and the date. And if I have even in the order more information that it might be repeated for one reason or another, then again I can create a third table, and again I will assign the key of the third table. So by an end, I can build the relationship between all these tables, and this is what we call it a relational database. And the set split process, we have it here for the main table. This is what we call it normalization. Now, if you take a look to the number of cells I need to have to save the same amount of data, in the main table I need 28 cells, while now to save the same amount of data by using this technique, the normalization, here I have 4 cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, here I have only 2, this is 6, and here I have 16. So the total number is going to be only 22. We cut down the 28 cells space needed to save that amount of data to 22. And in addition, here we start to use also, we can use maybe short integer. And short integer is going to take less space comparing to string, which I will use it to save the customer name, first name and last name, etc. And for my query also now it can run faster, because if I want to build a query to retrieve back like for our staff member Ellen, how many cells did he made during the year? Then it will be easier for the query just to access to this table and then this table and retrieve back the information. It has nothing to do now with the customer table, because we need just to see how many cells did he make during the year. Now, one more thing I need to add, which is we understand now the main key in each table, but sometimes in some tables, what was main key in one of the table, it might be used as what we call it a foreign key. Let us see that and see why do I need to have a foreign key. The foreign key means it is a key, it is linked to another table, but this key, it can be repeated. Here, let me assume the same order is being repeated time and time and being served by the same person. As we see here in this example, Alan served all the orders. So his key now is being repeated. Now, according to the definition of the key should not be repeated. It is unique. But when you configure it as a foreign key, then you can repeat the value according to your need. Because here all the time Ellen is the one who serves all these requests, so that's why the staff ID now is repeated and it is foreign. And the same for the customer ID. Customer ID also, the key should be foreign because again, the same customer requests different orders and his key now appears in this table more than one time. So that's why again here need to be configured as foreign. Now, in general, this is all what you need to know as a system admin about the database. Of course, we are going to spend more time. We want to see in a practical how we can take a look to these kind of databases, how we can help, give a hand, because that later is going to help us with the backup, restore, and to maintain the database itself. That's what we have in this video for this introduction of relational database. In the next video, we need now to check how we can see the relational database by using the SQL itself. Thanks for watching.